Hey guys, how's it going? Today, in this second installment of my reptile care series, I wanted to talk about another very general topic, lighting for your reptiles. There are a lot of different ways to light terrariums. They range from mercury vapor bulbs to fluorescent lighting to incandescent bulbs. There's compact fluorescent bulbs when it comes to fluorescence, and there's the tube lighting, and there's a lot of different opinions and viewpoints on all of these. So I just wanted to tell you guys about my opinions that I've formulated through the research I've done over the past, and there's, I'm just sharing my personal opinions. If you haven't seen the first installment of this series, there's a link down in the description. I suggest you go check that one out as well. It's about thinking critically about where you get your information and how you use information when it comes to caring for your reptiles. So there's a couple reasons why we use lighting, but most people, from what I've learned, believe that lighting is used to create a hot basking spot for our reptiles. And although that is one of the most important things for desert-dwelling reptiles like bearded dragons or Eurymastix, for instance, both of which I'm keeping now. I haven't been keeping them for very long, and they were what inspired this video. So there are very good reasons to have a hot spot provided by a basking light. But there are other species of reptiles that are not really needing a hot spot. They actually come and bask on rocks, or lay on rocks to heat up from their belly. And that's why we use under-tank heaters. And heating a reptile, I think, it's much better to use under-tank heat for that purpose, because then bulbs aren't the most efficient way to heat a terrarium. They are definitely needed for some reptiles, but they're definitely not the most efficient way to heat a tank. The second reason we use a light from above is for providing UVA and UVB radiation to our animals. And a lot of reptiles need to get UVA, UVB from a light source because they need to produce vitamin D3 in their skin using that radiation from the light to facilitate the metabolism of calcium. And we all know how important calcium is to our reptiles so that they don't get MBD or other, digestive problems and not get the nutrients from their food, be it protein, calcium, or other, vitamins and minerals. So now, talking about a couple different types of animals is very important to understand when you think about these lights. There are first diurnal animals, which are, the di in the word refers to two, being day and night. So a diurnal animal, like a bearded dragon, will sleep when the light is when it's night, and they are awake during the day when it's sunny, when they can bask, they can get the heat from the sun, and they can absorb that UV radiation. Next, I'm going to lump these two types of animals, into one category because they kind of have the same needs when it comes to lighting, in my personal opinion. These animals are nocturnal or crepuscular. Nocturnal means they're active at night. Crepuscular means I may be pronouncing that wrong, correct me in the comments if I'm wrong, or even a video response, anything like that, but they are active most at dusk and at dawn. They can expose themselves to low levels of light at the dusk and dawn if they so choose. Unlike in captivity, where we are the sole providers of any light that they get, whether it be being next to a window that provides actual daylight, or be it fluorescent lighting or our basking spots. But these animals that are nocturnal, like ball pythons, leopard geckos, they don't need a basking spot because they aren't active during the day, so they don't get their heat from the light coming down above them. They get their heat from laying down on rocks that have been heated up, or laying under rocks that are heating up during the day. But they still do ingest food sources that are active during the day, probably eating plants or other insects that get their nutrients from the day. We all have to eat vegetables and fruits and everything to get our nutrients. We do need to think about that when we're feeding our leopard geckos, for instance. A lot of people don't believe that you should use vitamin with D3 in it, or calcium with D3, sorry. But me personally, I would prefer to use it occasionally, just to make sure that they are getting something. I also like to have certain amounts of supplementary lighting that at least light up their tank during the day with some fluorescent lights. I don't have them directly on the tanks, but my reptile room is always lit up very nicely. Lots of lights in here, so that they at least know when it's day and night, and they get a little bit of radiation from those lights occasionally. So like I said, our lighting methods should be providing something to substitute any shortcomings that our captive environments have. So, you know, you always got to think about what these animals are doing in the wild. So the next topic I'd like to go over is the actual different bulbs we can use. There's a lot of different views on this, and there's a lot of different options you can use, and no one answer is correct. Or no one answer is completely correct versus the others. First, I'd like to talk about the mercury vapor bulbs. The mercury vapor bulbs do provide UVA and UVB as well as a heat source. So for desert-dwelling animals, they can be a, pretty good all-in-one source for light. But there are other lights that work better for providing UVA or UVB. The other option to use is a combination of bulbs, which would be, you could use a fluorescent tube light in combination with a heat-emitting ceramic element, which fits into a socket just like any screw light bulb that you can get, and they provide a radiant heat source while the fluorescent bulb provides the light nutrients they need. And the fluorescent bulbs, the tube light, there is also an option that is called a compact fluorescent bulb. And there's a lot of flack that people get for using compact fluorescents, and I wanted to share my views on those bulbs because I feel that many people say that those bulbs are the absolute worst thing you can use, but I know for a fact you can get compact fluorescent bulbs in many different color spectrums. And there's a Kelvin scale which tells you the color temperature of the light that's coming out of there. And certain bulbs from these will not provide UVA or UVB. Some will provide more UVA than UVB. Some will provide more UVB than UVA. You need to do your research. I'm not going to explain that here because it's a bit of an involved topic. But if you want to know, I suggest you educate yourself about the compact fluorescent bulbs because they provide a better intensity of light. Maybe not the right spectrum. Obviously you can make a mistake, so that's why a lot of people do caution new keepers on using those bulbs. But if you want to use them, they have their specific applications and they can do a better job than fluorescent bulbs. You just need to make sure you have the right bulb. And like I said, there's a lot of different color spectrums. You can get your 10.0 color your UVB lights on the compact fluorescent, the coiled bulbs, and they will do the correct job. You just need to educate yourself on the topic and make sure you buy the right bulb. Compact fluorescent bulbs were relatively new to terrariums not that long ago, and they have gone in leaps and bounds. They've gotten better and better over the years, and now we're also starting to see people using LEDs in the terrarium hobby. And although they are substandard at the moment, a lot of them, some of them are great, and with advancements in technology, those will probably eclipse the compact fluorescents as well. And, a few years from now, the lights we use may be completely different than what we use today. And to say that the compact fluorescent bulbs don't work is just, it's old information that has not been adapted to the new developments in our technology. So just like in my last installment, I want to leave you guys with a question. What are your thoughts on providing UVB radiation or light to diurnal versus nocturnal animals? Do you think I'm wrong about compact fluorescent bulbs? Do you think I'm right? What is your opinion about all this? And how do you think the best way to do things is? If you disagree with me completely, maybe show me a link to a website or something where you've read about something that tells why I might be wrong, or maybe even corroborating statements that, you know, support what I'm saying. I'd love to hear more. I'd love to see a nice discussion about lights in the comments, all the different options. There's many options that I didn't talk about, but I just really wanted to touch on providing UVA and UVB to our reptiles. So, the last thing I want to say before I go is, in my last installment about thinking critically about reptile care, which I mentioned at the beginning, like I said at the beginning, there's a link in the description, and I found that most people seem to say that using YouTube and information that breeders have put up on the internet is the most common ways, and they are very good ways in my opinion, because you can, on YouTube, you can get in the comments, like I'm saying, like I'm trying to get going here, you can see discussions about other people's keeping methods, and when you read from breeders, it's usually information that has, you know, been tried and true. They've used it and it's worked. And it's worked over and over and over. These people have large collections, and there's a reason they do what they do. And I was happy to see that everybody seems to be cross-referencing everything they use with multiple sources. We should all share that type of research with our friends, with the fellow reptile keepers. Thanks for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed. Have a good one, guys.